Hi, my name is Don Pennell, and welcome to another episode of Around the Block. Except this time it's not around the block, it's around the world. All the way from Entebbe, Uganda, we have Margaret Tuhumwire. Is that the proper? Did I do that right, Margaret?
Yes.
I did, wonderful. Margaret is associated with the grandmothers, and that, of course, is what we're going to talk about today. Margaret, there's a lot of people here who donate to grandmothers, and they work for grandmothers, but there's a lot of people who do not know what it's all about. Could you explain what Grandmothers in Heritage Village is all about?
The grandmothers from the Heritage Village are sponsoring the orphans and other vulnerable children. We call them orphans and other vulnerable children because there is a category of children that get abandoned and the parents are alive, but they are still living like orphans. So this group of grandmothers, they sponsor children on one-to-one. One of them sponsors 4 children, and a number of them sponsor more than 1 child, 2 children, 3 children. And the way they sponsor them is taking them through education, from the lower level, primary level, to the secondary level, to university level. It's a model that we adopted with them because it is sustainable, rather than people taking a short term and they sponsor a child and stop possibly in primary 7, which sometimes is hurts.
So some of these children, or most of them, are they orphans? Are they children with no homes? Is that who you're looking at to support and sponsor?
It's mainly orphans.
Orphans.
Yes.
Now, I recall in the past there was some talk about that the epidemic of AIDS left a lot of children living with their grandmothers, and it was the grandmothers who were raising their grandchildren. Is that still going on? Is that still part of what you're doing?
It is still part of what we are doing. It's quite a challenging situation because, grandmothers pass on after some time. And that is why the children who have surrogate parents this side have something to fall to. And we have had examples of people like Frances Krebs visiting the grandmothers, and visiting after about 2 years, she finds the grandmother is gone, but she's taking care of these children.
Mm-hmm. Now, grandmothers here is in Heritage Village, but do you have other grandmothers in other countries or in other parts of Canada and the US?
We have other categories of people who are not grandmothers. For example, we have had young people coming from Canada, from British Columbia, to work with us as volunteers. And when they go back after seeing what we are doing, they go back to their countries and spread the word around that there is a need to sponsor the children in these grandmother families and the children who have been left because of HIV/AIDS.
Mm-hmm. Now, not only are you sponsoring them as people, but you've mentioned education, which is the way out of poverty and the way out of things. So would you explain how your school system, what you have for schools?
Our school system is holistic. We sponsor a child with education, with his health, with clothing and feeding. So we take care of the whole child. So when we get a person that is partnering with us, the partner sends us the funds, and for us we take care of the child. We even partner with the hospital because of the children, because children fall sick. We have children that have had some accidents, those who had chronic ulcers, things like that. So we look at the child holistically, and we emphasize education for the child throughout, not to drop the child on the way. So we like this model because the child has been living in very hard conditions. When you get the child out of hard conditions, then you must have designed something to offer that he can know you are dependable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they depend on us for their education, for their feeding, their clothing, shoes, books, scholastic materials, etc.
Do they, once they go to school and become educated, do they come back and help you out? Or do they go move on to other parts of the country?
We started having some of them graduating. For example, we now have 3 graduates. One doctor who,
Yes.
who has visited you before, and she has now graduated as a doctor. But even before her graduation, she would come back and help us with the children. She would treat the children with minor diseases, and every holiday she would come and put in some days for us, which is excellent. We have a boy who has specialized in IT. We call him when we have a problem with the IT, and he comes in and solves the problem without charging us. So they are going back to the communities to serve them. Currently, but Priscilla, who is a doctor, she has served in different communities, and she is such an excellent person that, treats the patients well.
Well, that's great. So now, how many children are you sponsoring at the moment?
Currently, we have over 100 children.
100 children.
100 children. A few of them do not have sponsors. We are still looking for people that can take them on.
Okay, now when you say sponsor, you're looking for an individual who will sponsor that one child and continue to sponsor it through the education system, feeding and clothing and education. Is that what you really mean by sponsoring individuals?
We like that individual sponsorship. It is the model that we would like to proceed with. But if we get an organization that has some donation to give us, we take it and helps us in other areas like construction or classrooms, solar systems, water systems. Other companies and organizations come in and help us with that. But with the sponsorship, we like to attach the children. They get to know their sponsor, they communicate with the sponsor, and then they know us, that we are taking care of them, but they also have a surrogate parent somewhere.
Okay, so what you're looking for, say for example here in Heritage Village, if there's someone here who would like to sponsor a child, what would be the cost? Is it by the year, or how does that work out? What would be the cost if someone wanted to sponsor a child?
We try our level best to chip in voluntarily, and we ask for a minimum, which is US$ 400 per year for a child in a primary school, and US$ 600 for a child in secondary school. The universities differ, the courses differ. Some, like medicine, it was expensive, but the lady who opted to sponsor Priscilla, who was the late Miriam, she paid up front, and she paid 1,000 per semester.
That's great. A couple of other questions. How did it get started? How did you get involved with this as a person?
As a person, I think it was out of compassion for other people, wanting to help other people around me. I grew up in a family where my mother always sent us to help other people. And to me, as a child growing up, I always wanted to help another person. And out of that, we had an interdenominational meeting in 1995, where we were like 40 women meeting. And we stayed quite long waiting for the visitors who were coming from the US to meet us. And somehow I got something that I should call it a vision. And I talked to my colleagues and I said, when I look around, I feel like we are all women who can afford food on our tables. Why don't we meet more often and we look around us and help other people in our communities, especially women who are less privileged than ourselves? So it was born out of that, then to grow up into an organization. And since 1995, we are now over 20 years as an organization existing, and we have been able to implement a number of projects in our communities.
Now, one of the things I think people would like to know is, where are you actually? Are you in the city, a town, or are you in the country, or both?
We are a national non-governmental organization. We have our headquarters in Entebbe, Uganda, in East Africa, but we work nationally. We work in different corners of the country, and we take children from different parts of the country.